The views and opinions of the guest does not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the host, the show, and the team. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of our podcast where we figure things out and learn from the best. And this episode is very, very intriguing to me because it's something that has been talked about in different countries, but in some countries, it's not yet legalized. And hopefully, this episode would give light in what cannabis or CBD or whatever it is about marijuana that we want to know, because there are a lot of informations coming left and right. And we have this guest of ours who has been very knowledgeable on that field. Actually, he is a producer of the Down the Road podcast, and he's also coming out with a documentary for marijuana that is set to release on 420. I mean, what's the best day to release a documentary about marijuana, cannabis, but on 420? Without further ado, let's give it up, Casey Murdock.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Man, thank you so much for joining us on the show. For everyone listening right now, and I was emailing with Casey regarding this. He told me, because I'm from the Philippines, his sister stayed in the Philippines for a few months, right?
What is it, 18 months? However long the female Mormon missionary cycle is. I am not a practicing Mormon. I do not belong to that religion anymore. My entire family does. So, yeah, I think it's 2 years for boys and like 18 months for females. And she just fell in love with the culture, the people. Anytime she ran into anyone in the States that was Filipino, she relished the opportunity to speak Tagalog.
Yeah. That's a cool thing about it here. Like, when I was in my grandma's place, like there are a lot of Mormons knocking on the door, and they're very fluent with our language, Tagalog or Filipino, and it's really surprising. Is that something? I mean, you're not practicing, but you said you left it. So, is that something you need to learn before going on a mission?
Well, so there's the funny part. So they have basically their own Mormon college for going on a mission where they teach you languages and stuff like that. But in the 1950s, when my dad went on his Mormon mission, that didn't exist. That little college didn't exist. So they sent him to Tonga. So for those of you who are watching this outside the Philippines and don't know where Tonga is, it's kind of like Samoa. It's Polynesian. It's real close to New Zealand. And it was the last official monarchy on the planet until a couple years ago. They just sent him there as a white boy with no knowledge of the language. And he had to learn the language on the spot while he was there. And once again, fell in love with the culture and the people and the language. And in fact, I feel more Tongan and Polynesian than I do Scottish white most days, because I grew up going to the types of luau's that you can't even pay for in Hawaii as a tourist. That was regular weekends for me, was hanging around with the biggest, sweetest, gentle giants on the planet and eating Kahlua pork. Like, come on, that's a great childhood to me.
Yeah, man, that's so cool to hear. I'm pretty familiar with it, or knowledgeable, since I watch a lot of pro wrestling, and you do know that most wrestlers have a Samoan lineage on it. You yourself, have you gone to a Mormon mission, or you left before that even happened?
Yeah, I emotionally, mentally, and spiritually checked out way before that. I waited till I was 18 until I was a full adult here, and then I told my mom that I wasn't going on a mission. It wasn't my church. I wasn't planning on staying Mormon, and not an easy conversation to have when you love your mom and you want to respect her, and but it's the religion I was born into. We're all born.
Exactly.
We're all born behind some sort of fake national or state line under a fake flag that doesn't matter, under whatever religion our parents chose for us. Like freedom of choice. I'm a big believer in freedom of choice.
Yeah, man, I hear you, and it's really nice that you actually came out clean with regards to that early, as soon as you're an adult in your life, because some people really just do it to please their parents, but in the long run it's really nice to just be honest and come clean.
And I believe that is humanity's biggest problem. We don't like to be uncomfortable. And that's not just an American thing, that's a human thing. We don't like to have
Exactly.
uncomfortable conversations and feel uncomfortable and being in uncomfortable situations. And the sooner we can get used to having uncomfortable conversations with people who are different from ourselves, the more we're going to come together as a human race. One race, human race, trying to live together in harmony on this planet without destroying this planet that we need to survive.
Exactly, man. And yeah, it seems that you are very comfortable in the uncomfortable. Is that something that has always been innate in you, or is there a moment in your life that made you realize, hey, I gotta start having this talk?
Boy. Yes, no. I've always been open and honest. I can't lie. It's kind of my thing. It's just I was born this way. I don't even know how to lie. I'm not good at it. That's why I can't be an actor. Uh, but at the same time, I also didn't understand my own white privilege living in this systemic racist white privileged United States of America until I actually got my first black friend and was in his car driving around in Ogden, Utah, and we got pulled over and we both got yanked out and slammed on the pavement for no reason other than the fact that I was with a black person. Guess what? I drove every time after that. Did we still get pulled over? Yes. Did we get yanked out of the car and slammed on the pavement? No. Why? Because I'm white and I was the one driving. So I learned about white privilege very fast, having no idea what it was. And now I actually fucking hate it, to be honest. But and I'm getting sick and tired of it. But I will, until the day I am dead, I will be explaining to other white people, family and friends especially, that just because you have white privilege doesn't make you racist. But the second you start defending that you have white privilege or that you don't think you have white privilege, you're probably going to be a racist.
It's really nice for you to have a realization like that, especially you having friends of different races, and since you grow up, like you said, in a Samoan or a Tongan a background, so it's really nice that you recognize that there was something wrong in the system. I mean, is this in New Mexico where you currently are at, or was it in a different state?
It was in Utah, so not far from here, from New Mexico. But it's in every state in differing degrees. Like the first time I ever got busted with marijuana, or cannabis, excuse me. Marijuana is a stigma and a naughty word that white people in America put on cannabis because they were mad at Mexicans for bringing it across the border, smoking it with blacks in jazz clubs, and then their white daughters were going to jazz clubs and having way too much fun with people of color. So then what did America do? We put a prohibition on cannabis and called it marijuana, and then the rest of the world followed suit. Hemp was grown in every country around, industrial hemp, and was used for oil, clothing, and more things than you could even fathom 150 years ago, until America started the prohibition on hemp and cannabis. I didn't even know how much we actually imported. I mean, we grew a ton here, but we imported more than we actually grew. And the second we stopped importing it, every other country in the world stopped growing it and banned it too. Stop following us. We're idiots.
Well, like I said, I guess this is why we want to have you on the show, just to have a different angle in looking at this thing. If you could share with our audience, our listeners, like what is the reason why you got tied into cannabis? Let's go to cannabis right now, because as you said, marijuana is a different term that they brought, but like, how did you become such a big defender of it?
The Cost of Cannabis is the name of the series. It's a documentary series. It'll be on the Down the Road Show YouTube channel, youtube.com/DTR show. Please go subscribe so that way you can be the first to catch it. Some of the trailers are up there right now. But I started smoking when I was 18, just to get high, to help, because I was molested by a cousin when I was 14. And that gave me crazy fucked up nightmares and thoughts, and I couldn't go to sleep. It created insane insomnia issues and mental health issues that I had no one to talk to about it with, no one to deal with it with throughout my teenage or 20s or 30s until I finally kind of dealt with it in my 30s. But in order just to be able to get any kind of sleep, I had to smoke insane amounts of marijuana, cannabis, pot, weed, whatever you want to call it, for my brain to go foggy enough to not picture his face every time I laid down for sleep, just so I could go to bed, or get blacked out drunk. Like, those were my only options. Those were my only options. I had no health care. Mental health is stigmatism that is looked down on in this country. And I mean, look at Meghan Markle and what happened with the royal family with that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I hear you.
can we start talking about mental health as a world, please? But yeah. So that's what got me into that. And then I was in a car accident in 2000 where I totaled my vehicle, and that's where a lot of this health issues started. And I bruised my tailbone, which is why I have a hard time sitting here for long periods. Like I got a pillow under me this thick right now on top of the chair, like just to sit here and do.
Sorry to hear that, man. Like, I'm sorry to hear what happened to you and what currently is happening, man.
But that was my realization right there. Is the doctor put me on Prozac for my brain swelling, which is a ADHD drug. And that was the first time in my life I realized that cannabis. See, now you got me saying marijuana. Yeah, the cannabis actually always worked on my ADHD to level me out so that I could think properly, so that I could be a normal person and be a part of society without having to take a pill that has a ton of side effects. Because this was in the 80s before they started saying, oh, you have ADHD, and just diagnosing everybody left and right. And before they realized they weren't testing for dyslexia. So I had ADHD and dyslexia, and my teachers just thought I was an idiot. No, it was the fact that my brain was working faster than I could keep up with.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much why we wanted to have you on the show. Like, I personally have not smoked or even did any edibles or stuff of cannabis, right? Of cannabis. And oh, by the way, here's the trailer of your show. Yeah.
The Cost of Cannabis is a brand new show.
Going to what I was saying, like, yeah, that's one of the things when I got so intrigued of what the people were defending online. Because in the beginning, you said it's right, there is a stigma, and with that stigma, you tend as a person, since it's illegal, you're not going to go near it or read anything about it. But once you go to like some forums, there are some case that could be arguable, and one of those is that there is no proven harmful effects. I mean, like, what cigarette would do to you. And second, like, why are drugs that are synthetically made in the lab allowed to be consumed while this thing is natural? I mean, could you share with us some of the common misconceptions that people have on why they are not allowing this to be legalized?
Yeah, well, the war on drugs is a racist war on drugs, and it's a fake war on drugs just to make money in this country. And then what has that war on drugs done to other countries to actually destroy democracy? Like, we're so pathetic in the way we think about our foreign affairs versus our actual affairs here in this country. It's mind-boggling to me sometimes, our own politics. But wait, what was the question again?
Yeah, like, what are the common the common misconceptions, like the reasoning of people for not legalizing it that you think is not actually true, or there is a better explanation for it?
The Cost of Cannabis is going to debunk the myths and lies behind hemp, CBD, and cannabis. It is not a gateway drug. In fact, it's a gateway off of drugs. It's a gateway off of alcohol. It's a gateway off of big pharma pills. It's a gateway off of heroin. It's a gateway off of all kinds of other hard drugs. Cannabis doesn't lead to other drugs. Cannabis is a gateway into better mental health and physical health. Like you were saying at the start of the show, we haven't done enough science. There isn't enough research out there behind hemp CBD, THC, cannabis, and all the different things in the plants that are beneficial to us. Here's two perfect examples here in America. The United States of America owns the patent on cannabinoids healing cancer. Why is that not public? Why is that not public information? And why does our own government own the patent on that, yet have cannabis illegal if they know it fixes cancer? Second item, just last year, no, was it 2019? Either 2019, 2020, it doesn't matter. The FDA approved, okay, for years they've been trying to create a synthetic cannabis drug to help with epilepsy, but it wasn't working because once you do synthetic, you're not taking all the natural ingredients and benefits from the actual plant. So that's why synthetics don't work. So the second they actually went to the
Is
plant,
that the flaca? I read something about a
yes,
flaca.
something like that. I forget the name of it.
They turn to zombies, or like it causes a zombie-like effect. But
No,
yeah, please continue.
yeah. I'm gonna have to look that up after this now. But the point being is, once they went to a plant, they got the drug to work. Now here's the catcher of lack of logic and just the stupidity thinking of things is they approved that drug in either 2019 or the beginning of 2020. I want to say 2019 for sorry, let me say that again. For children with epilepsy. For children.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody calm down out there and think about this logically for a second. The government just said this is okay for your children to help them with their epilepsy, but it's not okay for you as an adult.
Yeah, man, that sounds very that sounds like an intriguing thing. But I have to ask you though, since it is not, I mean, I don't know if it's legal in New Mexico. I know in Colorado.
It is. Yeah.
Oh, it's legal there. Yeah. Yeah, one of the thing that I am wondering, because it's not legal here, if it is legalized, I mean, because some of the problem is, since it's not, some people might get the wrong kind. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm really clueless about this. Hence the title of the podcast, IDK What To Say. But yeah, there are two kinds of cannabis. One is a sativa and another is an indica. One makes you happy, one makes you paranoid. Correct me if I'm wrong, if ever. But yeah, what I was thinking is that since there is it's not legalized, or there's no research about it, and if it's going to go around in countries where it's not legal, they might give the wrong type. Like if I'm too paranoid as a person, they might give me the strain that makes me more paranoid. And is that what would cost them harm or something, or does that not matter at all?
So what you're referring to is called an adverse side effect. You don't get actual side effects like you do from pills, where it's going to like, I have this neck brace on to help with my arthritis, my neck pain and whatnot, but I have to be careful not put it too tight, because one of the side effects from the first neuropathy drug I took makes my throat close and I just stop breathing. So it kind of gets a little claustrophobic with this on if I put it on too tight. And it can happen at any time of the day. And sometimes my throat just stops working and I start choking on food or my own spit because I can't swallow. That's an actual side effect from a pill. Marijuana, cannabis, hemp, CBD, THC, none of that is going to give you any of those kind of side effects. You're going to have adverse effects where if you do too much, you may get those kind of effects. Or if you're doing the wrong kind, it may promote your paranoia or anxiety.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is why in the Cost of Cannabis docuseries, I interviewed the owner of endodna.com. He got kicked out of his house for smoking pot at 16, went to college, became a scientist, and started this company that takes your 23andMe or your DNA kit results and matches it up with the exact strains and terpenes, because terpenes are very important too, okay? Which the documentary will explain what terpenes are, with your DNA strains that will help you with your pain and anxiety. and tell you exactly which ones you should be avoiding that will increase your anxiety as well. But here's the other problem with that. This is why we need worldwide legalization and we need monetarization, because what you're talking about is the difference between, the two different strains. There's 3 strains basically now. There's your indica.
All right.
So there's your indica, which I refer to as your nighttime. That's your head high, that's your body high, stoned, eating munchies, watching TV, vegging out,
Okay.
really relaxed, not paying attention to the world. That's the stuff I smoke at night to make me pass the fuck out and go to sleep and not see the evil bastard that molested me. Whereas in sativa is your daytime, head high, uppity, holy crap, I just cleaned my entire house and didn't even realize I cleaned my entire house, go to work, get things done, very motivated type of a head high. That's the difference. Whereas in a hybrid is now a cross between the two of them, which I've always considered more of a, okay, I'm going out to party with my friends. I'm going to have a few drinks. This is going to get me started, mellow me out just the right amount, but keep me up at the same time without making me tired and munchies and stonies. But then again, with my ADHD, I don't get the munchies and get the tired anyway. It just kind of mellows out my brain. So, but here's what I've been learning in my research with the docu-series, because what you're talking about is like in the 90s when I lived in Utah in my 20s, everything was illegal. I had to take whatever I could get. If it smelled like gasoline because it was smuggled in a gas tank up from Mexico, I didn't give a shit. I smoked it. I had no other choice. Now we have choices and we have options. But because everything's grown so well and everything's been cross-pollinated and whatnot, there are no sativas or indicas anymore. Everything is some sort of hybrid, but it's a dominant strain. And that's why it's important to legalize so that we can test it, because there's nothing more important than testing to know exactly how potent it is, what strain it is, what the terpenes are, to know what you're getting as a consumer, especially for me with all kinds of health issues where cannabis is the only goddamn thing keeping me alive.
I hear you. And yeah, I guess that's a clear thing, because clearly I didn't know anything about it going in, but I just base it from what I see. But yeah, it's really nice to see that, since they're doing hybrids, you wouldn't have to worry about getting the wrong strain or the wrong kind. And also, if I guess since it's legal there, the actual experts would be able to get your initial assessment and see what works well for you. But yeah,
Actual experts.
Yeah, actual experts.
Yeah,
man.
And what we see, because let me tell you that real quick here, because that's
right.
a difference, because different states have different laws. Like in Colorado, my friend just got licensed to be a dispensary salesperson, but you have to get licensed there. You don't have to get licensed in this state. In California, you definitely don't have to get licensed, and they just hire pretty girls who don't know what the hell they're talking about because they think pretty girls sell more stuff. I want someone who's knowledgeable, who can educate me, because every time I went into a dispensary in California, the average age was over 65. It's retired people with tons of pain who are trying to get off of the big pharma medical pills that are causing other side effects that make them take even more pills. And now their grandkids are talking them into trying CBD or cannabis in edible or smoking or all of its many different ways that you can put it in your body to help with your health. And they're dropping their own stigmatism because they're seeing that it works for themselves finally, and not listening to the politics or the religions that told them it was the evil devil's lettuce.
Oh, I have yet to hear something that calls it an evil. Well, if I watch some some teen movies, yeah, I think I heard that. But yeah, going to what you're saying, I mean, you did mention that about CBD. I mean, CBD is what they say, like a compromise, since it doesn't have the effects that would make it addicting. I mean, with CBD out, are you still advocating for the actual marijuana or the actual cannabis? Sorry, I keep saying marijuana.
All of the above. I'm advocating for all of the above. Look, I'm not saying everybody needs to get stoned and everybody needs to smoke cannabis. I'm saying everybody should have the freedom, no matter where they live, to try it and see if it helps them. And it's just like any other medication. Once you're taking a pill, you're on that pill for your health for a long time. It's continuous medication. So you don't just go out and smoke cannabis once or take CBD once and you're magically cured. That's not how it works. But for those who don't want the euphoric effects of being high, the mental part, That's what CBD is for. That's going to help with inflammation and pain and things like that. Whereas in CBD doesn't actually take care of my neurology pain. The THC in marijuana actually does that. So I'm at so much pain. My pain level's fucking through the roof to the point where I don't even get stoned anymore. I don't get high. All of that goes to pain management. Like, so chasing the high and trying to get stoned like I was in my 20s doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. It either goes to pain management or just knocks me out so I can sleep. There's no in between anymore.
So this is pretty much like a maintenance drug to you, just to control the pain. Like, if you could share with us, like in a regular day, like how much do you? I would assume you smoke it rather than eat it or rub it on your body, right?
All the above.
Okay.
Yeah, I use CBD rubs. I'll use a THC cannabis rub. I'll use whatever I can afford. But this country's so messed up with its loopholes that I can't collect disability. I can't collect unemployment. Basically, I have no money. The only money I make is what I make off of YouTube revenue ads, which is like $100 a month. I smoke I go through easily $300 to $400 worth a month of marijuana products just to keep me out of pain and to keep me regular, so that I can produce the Cost of Cannabis. And the podcasts are on hold because like there's only so much I can do at a time. And like I had COVID when all this started too, so I got the whole brain fog thing on top of it. So like once my brain shuts down, like I can't get anything done. And I was having mental issues because of all my other stuff before I had COVID. So now it's just like it's a whirlwind of bullshit.
Well, it's good you are fine now, and like I said, you made this docu-series. Like, could you talk to us on what inspired you to make the documentary?
So in 2013, a friend of mine that I'd only known a few years got arrested in Phoenix, Arizona. Well, didn't get arrested, got a ticket. He's a stand-up comedian. He was out doing comedy, and him and the other two comics went outside to get high in between sets, like comics do. Not all comics, I know, but a lot of comics, they drink and they smoke and they like to get relaxed so they can be funny. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
And some cop came and gave them a ticket, only handcuffed the black guy out of the three of them, of course. So the first two guys...
That is so sad to hear, man.
Right? So the first two guys go to court, claim all the paraphernalia, all the marijuana and everything. So my friend Stuart goes to court and it's like, hey, why am I even here? They're like, well, because you got a ticket. And he's like, but my friends took credit for everything. Like, I'm not guilty of anything. And they're like, well, too bad. Here in this state, the way the laws are written, you're not entitled to defend yourself or a lawyer. It's automatically guilty. Here's your fine. He said, nope, I ain't paying no fine. Had to go back in. They're like, fine, do some community service. Same answer. Didn't do community service. Goes back in like his fourth or fifth time, whatever. And the judge is like, did you pay your fine? No. Did you do your community service? Here's my sheet. Absolutely nothing on it. I did no community service. Fine. Then I warned you, I'm going to send you to jail, which can be a minimum of 30 days up to a year or longer, according to whatever the judge is feeling that day. Okay. So my friend already had a plan, and I didn't believe he was going to do it. He told me about it ahead of time. I drove out from California to Arizona and interviewed him and filmed it for him because at his request. Like I said, we hadn't been friends that long, just a couple years. So, and in other states. So we didn't know each other that well. How am I going to believe that this guy's going to slit his wrist in open court instead of paying a marijuana ticket?
Yeah. I hear you, man. Now, you mentioned that, you it's a way for you to like give awareness to it. Is there something throughout the documentary, you talking to various people, where you yourself learned something that, I mean, like, let's say
I'm
initially
learning stuff all the time.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is, like, initially you think that this is correct, but upon talking to experts, you learn that it's not it actually.
Well, yeah, like the guy at Endo DNA, like he took me to school, to church. He was preaching to the choir. Like, I worship that man, like, not in a worship kind of way, but just like everything he said to me in a knowledgeable way. Because I thought CBD could be the end all fix all things, but he was the one who told me that it's the THC implant that works as an analgesic and a pain reliever and a pain
Oh,
blocker, not the CBD. CBD actually helps with inflammation, which is what helps my arthritis that's pinching on my nerves in my neck and my lower back. So the CBD was helping to a certain point, but it wasn't taking away the pain level. And now that's why I've noticed now every time I'm out of weed, after about a week of being out of cannabis, that's when the nerve damage starts getting really, really intense and really bad. And then the migraines get to the point where I can't think, I can't see straight, I can't concentrate, I can't get out of bed, I can't eat, I can't swallow, I can't do anything. And those can last hours, days, or even a full week. And so it's like okay, right now I'm doing a product from someone I interviewed that's going to be in the docuseries called Comma Hemp. Kate, wonderful Irish lady in Ireland, has an amazing hemp farm. It was interesting to hear about the cultural differences between Ireland and here on how they view hemp versus marijuana. And she doesn't just make CBD oil. She juices the whole plant, then turns it into a powder form. So you're getting all the fiber, the proteins, the vitamin A, B's, and C's in it, all the things you're not getting in other CBD or marijuana plants, because that's something I'm going to be diving into in the docuseries as well, is the theory that one of the reasons we have so many dietary issues and complications as a human race right now is because the entire planet used to feed hemp to its livestock, turning all of our food into superfoods and making us more healthy. The second we stopped eating it ourselves and giving it to our livestock on the planet was, oh, look at us now. Now we have all kinds of dietary complications as a human race that we're wondering why our ancestors 1,000 years didn't have.
well, that's very enlightening. But yeah, going to what you're saying and just facing reality as of the moment, because even here in the Philippines, they can't even get cannabis to be registered to be studied on. I mean, do you think that CBD would be a good compromise if they can't go fully on
Yeah.
legalizing cannabis? And why do you think so?
Absolutely. It's the only thing I think President Trump did correct in his 4 years here as a president. One of the first things he did was legalize CBD with 0.03% THC. Okay, now you need a little bit of THC to activate that CBD, and it's almost impossible to get all the THC out of it. The THC is what gives you the high and gives you the euphoric state, whereas in the CBD is more of a calming euphoric. It's a completely different kind of state. Now, if you're not used to cannabis or marijuana and you use CBD, it may make you feel like you're a little high. You're not actually high, but it's that calming, relaxingness of the CBD that you're not used to, and your state of well-being that we should naturally be in already as humans anyway. So I think once that happened, regulations started loosening around the country here a lot, which loosened up research, because you need the laws to be loosened in order to be able to do the research. So I think if every country was to follow suit and start with CBD and see how helpful it is and how non-harmful CBD actually is for humans, because what it is it's a cannabinoid. It's a cannabinoid. Do you know what a cannabinoid is? Look it up. Google it, people. It's in your brain. It's part of your brain receptors that communicates to your entire body. Cannabinoids are part of the human anatomy, and they're only found in the hemp and marijuana plant elsewhere besides animals.
Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Yeah, man. And the reason I'm saying that is because, I mean, aside from doing this podcast, I'm also a dentist. I also
Oh,
know
cool.
that, yeah, I know that smoking cannabis could not be a good thing if you're going to a clinic, because number one, it's going to dry your mouth.
Mhm.
And second, if they take the kind that makes you so anxious, I don't think it's going to be smart to put a drill on their mouth, because it's going to be crazy for them. So it's really nice that, because I've also read some studies or some
Hey,
articles.
I hate dentists because I have mouth issues. Like I have a high gag reflex. So I have never been to a dentist without getting high first, because I need that.
Oh,
I need that right amount of relaxation so that I don't throw up on him while he's doing all that.
well, it's good that you take the one that makes you relax, because I would assume, if although I never experienced it, I mean, if someone took the wrong kind and it makes them so anxious, I would assume. I mean, I'm basing it from what I see on movies because
Right.
I haven't seen anyone that paranoid aside from the stand-up comic sets. You know, I mean, like Joe Rogan
I've
loves to
seen,
make a lot of jokes about how paranoid he gets when he's high
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Look, yeah, look, in movies and entertainment, it's definitely exaggerated. I've seen it. I've seen people get ultra paranoid. Yes, it does happen. I've also seen people turn 18 shades of white and 27 shades of green. Like, and that happens with edibles usually because edibles get in your system slower. So you don't think you've had enough. So you eat more. So by the time the second round kicks in, it's over, and you think you're dying. You're not dying. You're not going to die, but you think you're dying. And I've even been there as a professional. But that's why I suggest for anyone who wants to try, you find someone who does and has, or especially does regularly. Because if there's something us potheads and stoners love, is bringing people into our circle and teaching them and educating them so that they don't mishandle it the wrong way, because it's easy to do, like any drug or like anything taken the wrong way. Even religion is a drug if you use it the wrong way.
Yeah, man, and that's very eye opening, especially as you said about as you were talking about edibles. I'm thinking now of all the movies I've watched, and I realized that yeah, they ate too much of those brownies that they got super paranoid. I personally used to think that smoking it is the more dangerous way of getting you paranoid since it's
No.
smoking. But yeah, upon thinking it right now, because the digestive tracts work slower and you probably would eat more before you realize you can't handle it.
The lungs filter it into the blood immediately, so it's an immediate sensation. Although for anyone who's never gotten high and they try it their first time, nobody ever is high their first time. You just don't know you are because you don't know what the experience is like, so you have nothing to compare it to. So people, nobody ever thinks they get high their first time. Nobody on the planet. I guarantee you.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a question, and this is just based on curiosity to everyone listening right now. I mean, would you recommend everybody to try it, or do you think it's really a case-to-case basis? And why, man? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, let's see. Alcohol and penises have started every damn war on this planet and all kinds of oppression and other issues. Now, imagine if everybody was stoned and a little more compassionate, empathetic, and calmer. We'd have a hell of a lot less wars. We'd have a lot more, I don't know, decent conversations and understanding. Have you ever been in a stoner circle in the conversations they have?
Never, man. That's the thing.
They think they're solving world peace. They think they're solving everything because they're thinking outside the box and they're welcoming in all kinds of ideas.
But you yourself being in a stoner circle at times, have you listened to, I mean, have you processed their opinions after like the when it wears off? Cannabis wears off? Yeah. And do you think that they make a better point?
Sometimes not. But it's
it's the same if you're not stoned and you talk about it. Like, right. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Exactly. Sometimes look, there's some burnouts out there that have been. Look, I don't recommend teenagers and kids smoking. No, using it for epilepsy and cancer and different things. Yes, but just smoking to get high, no, because your brain is growing until you turn 18. You don't want to put anything in there, alcohol, nicotine, anything to disrupt the growth of your brain. As working in the restaurant industry in this country for 20 years, the restaurant industry average age never changes. I got older, so I became an old person in the industry, but the average age is still 16 to 27.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing regarding it, man. Like, especially ever since it got legalized, or there have been more studies, it shows that smoking it under 18 isn't really the smartest thing to do, because it would cause a lot of long-term
brain damage,
harmful. I'm trying to find the better word to say it.
Look, and as an activist, I hate even saying that out loud. I do, and there's no actual proof or studies in that, but I've been around enough stoners that started when they were 12 or 13 and they're brain dead burnouts. Like, I feel bad for them, and they don't realize it, but they are. And that's the difference between being an informed adult and making the decision to try it versus just teenage angst and trying it with your friends, like is the popular thing to do in high school. I smoked it my first time when I was 16, but I didn't start up again until after I graduated high school and I was 18.
And hopefully, if there were enough research during the time you were 16 that says it wasn't a good thing, I would assume you wouldn't do it, right?
No, not at all. I was a dumb teenager that would have done anything.
But
But
I
now,
mean,
but
like the dispensaries won't probably make it accessible for you as a
but
kid.
but that's the difference in decades of it being illegal and me going through shady characters and illegal people and putting my own life at risk just to get the medicine I needed. Whereas now you go to a well-lit dispensary that has a nice counter and all kinds of selections that tell you your percentages, because some people just need like 10 to 15%. I need in the 20s to 30% in order for it to work on me. So you need to know what's in there. You need to know what you're getting. Smell it, look at it, as opposed to just going to some drug dealer on the street corner and whatever he has is whatever he has. Now you're going to somewhere that is safe, secure. They have armed security guards there. You're licensed. You know exactly what you're getting. You're talking to professionals. It's a completely different world. This is the world I've been working for all of you. I hope I get to live long enough to enjoy it.
Yeah, actually, one of the reasons I invited you on the show is because I was able to watch this documentary by, I don't know if you know Morgan Spurlock. He made Super Size Me. He made one about cannabis, and
I haven't watched that yet.
You should check it out. I saw it on YouTube in the Philippines. I don't know if it's available in your side, but yeah, he showed how a dispensary looks like. And when I looked at it, it's pretty much like a grocery. Like you have people giving you checklists and giving you the actual dose. And thinking about it, like that's also like the perception about it. When it's not legalized, you're thinking, especially what you see on media, that it's probably on some shady alley where you hide it somewhere and you pass it, which I think is more dangerous than having like are you for the government regulating cannabis and being able to give it to the public?
Yes, but no. 2 degrees. Once again, I have certain levels of government distrust. And the last thing I want to see is them putting it in the hands of Big Pharma or Marlboro or Monsanto. We need to keep it in the hands of small businesses and small farmers and keep it accessible to everyone. And the last thing they need to do is make it legalized, but make it illegal for us to home grow it as our own medicine, because it's the easiest plant you can grow for yourself to save. I mean, okay, not me. I keep killing my plants. I suck as a horticulturalist, and I know it. I've always
no green thumb. Huh?
Yeah, I do not have a green thumb. So, that would save me a lot of money, because like I have no income and I can't afford as much as I actually physically and mentally need. So once again, my docuseries is going to be talking to a bunch of combat veterans that served in different branches of the military in Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia, and saw the worst of the worst on this planet when it comes to violence. And now they fought for freedom and the freedom of rights in America, but they come home and they don't have the freedom to smoke a natural plant to help with their PTSD and their mental disorder. Whereas in the Veterans Hospital Association, they're poised. They're ready. They are okay with the veterans smoking medical marijuana for their PTSD. But because it's illegal in all 50 states, it depends on what state they live in on whether they're allowed to even do that, which is fucked up for all they've been through. Like, look, I'm a huge supporter of our soldiers, but I'm anti-war. I hate our government for sending them out there and doing that. And I don't think it's our job to police the world and our lie about spreading democracy, when all we're really doing is the CIA's giving money to Taliban and other terrorists to start their own damn governments, because it's easier than dealing with the governments that they're trying to deal with. I mean, it's just pathetic. Like, I don't see what's going on worldwide that America is inflicting. We're the ones dropping the most bombs, for the love of God. So yeah, but at the same time, like, it's not these soldiers' fault. They signed up, they felt they were doing what's right, and they come home, and then the way we treat them once they're home is just deplorable and disgusting to me. So that's why there's an entire episode devoted just to them, to hear their stories, to try to help push the narrative forward for a nationwide legalization. Because if there's one thing this country can get behind on the right or left side of politics, is supporting the veterans. Even though they say they do, they never do. They say they do, but they don't.
I hear you. I hear you. I just want to go back to one thing that you mentioned earlier, and
Mhm.
that you are not in favor of big companies, like, let's say, a Marlboro having a hold of the cannabis in the country. I mean, why are you not for it? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm all about transparency and openness, and when it comes to proper testing to make sure that they're not using unnecessary pesticides on there, because you don't want to smoke that into your lungs, you know.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And that's part of the problem with the still black market that exists in this country, is people who didn't know what they were doing were adding like e-oil to their vape pens, and people were dying because you can drink e-oil, you can rub it on your skin, but you cannot put it into your lungs. It is toxic and it will kill you. And that's the point of getting rid of the black market and making everything legal so that we can pay attention to it. But at the same time, like, look at Monsanto, look at Marlboro, look at these major corporations who have skirted the rules and harmed our society and harmed people in so many ways and made a huge profit off the death and of culture and human being, and we don't care. Like, why would we want to give God's gift and put it in their hands? They're just gonna fucking ruin it and destroy it like they do everything.
Wow, that makes sense. Like, yeah, just thinking about it now, they're probably going to, like, eventually find a cost-cutting measure to save cost in order to sell more and have less of their supplies taken in, let's say, a stick or something, whatever they decide. Yeah, man, that makes sense.
And the last thing I need for my own health is the government and Marlboro saying, well, we've decided because Budweiser, gave us a bunch of money along with Coors and these other alcohol companies to make our marijuana less potent so that way it doesn't ruin their alcohol sales. That doesn't help me. Like, some people only need 9% weed or 5% weed or 15% weed is too strong for them. Like, that shit doesn't touch me. I need the 20 to 30% or the vape cartridges that hit 60 and 90% every now and then. Like, that's what I need. And the last thing I need is big money, because big money always ruins everything, getting in the way.
Yeah, man. You're just enlightening me with everything you're saying, because I really didn't know what to expect going on. Now, one of the things that I'd like to ask with you, you mentioned that you have some of your friends who used it at a young age, and clearly now you could say that it did some harmful effects. What do you think is the best thing to do for someone who is not well, or is, let's say, addicted to cannabis, and it's not providing beneficial effects to them? Because,
right. Well,
I mean, if
I
you
would
could assume that's a bad effect if they smoke it like they're 12 and they're not well right now.
Right. Well, then we need to, once again, have an open dialogue and discussion and get uncomfortable. What is the leading causing effect? Why are
Do
they
you have
starting?
like, based on your documentary, do you have an idea on, like, what is the best measure? Because, like,
Mental health. Mental
Yeah,
health.
exactly.
We need to drop the stigma behind mental health. That's why I started smoking. I was molested. I didn't have anyone I could talk to about it in my family. My mom didn't have health care because this country's so messed up with health care, and her insurance dropped her when my dad was fighting cancer, and she had to go bankrupt after my dad died of cancer. Like, it costs money to be born and it costs money to die. It shouldn't cost you money to fucking die on this planet. Death should be free. So it's ridiculous. I get so fed up with it, and it's a worldwide issue. It's not just this country.
So, I mean, I'm not aware with the laws when it comes, but I would assume someone doing it illegally means they would go to jail. You think putting them in jail isn't the best way
No,
to
never has
assist
been,
them?
and it's not the answer for anyone Okay. It's not the answer for anyone addicted to cocaine, heroin, or pills either. So why are we locking people up? That doesn't help. Now I would argue that there's no such thing as addiction to marijuana. People can smoke way too much, and it can mess them up mentally if they start too much at a young age. But there has been no scientific proof that there is actual addiction to cannabis whatsoever. Now, you can be addicted to the fact that it's giving you better mental health. So once again, we need to go back to the mental health issue. What is starting these kids smoking it at such a young age? What's going on at home? What's going on at church? What's going on at their school? What's going on with their friends? What's going on in their mind and in their specific situation that is causing them to seek out better mental health on their own without help?
Yeah, I hear you. Going to a lighter side, I want to ask you, like, you seem to be a creative person. I see some drawings at the back of your wall.
All friends. I have very talented friends.
Oh, okay. Have you done anything creatively while because of using cannabis? Did it help you in any creative way creatively? That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, look, I was a musician before all this. I love the English language. I love rhymes. I love words. I love putting a good song and story together in that song. Music got me through the hardest times of my life. As a child, as a teenager, in my 20s, music has always been right there. It is my first and always will be my strongest language. So I love creating, and there's just something about once you do get stoned and you get in that creative flow, it helps with the creative flow, and it definitely helps me with my editing, because I was no one taught me how to edit. I have learned everything as a video producer myself, out there at Comic-Cons, just doing it around the country, and without. I get frustrated with myself because I know I'm not stupid in the learning curve, and I learned really fast. But then when you hit those walls, you get really frustrated. Well, then you get a little high. It takes away that frustration, and all of a sudden you see things in a brighter light and a clearer vision, and it helps with your overall creative vision in general, at least for me. Now, once again, it affects everybody different, just like alcohol affects everybody different. Vodka doesn't affect everyone the same. Tequila doesn't affect everyone the same, just like pain pills and everything else, or caffeine that is ramping through my body right now, as you can tell by the way I'm ranting. But everything affects us all differently, and that's why it's important to have the freedom to try it yourself, to decide if it's something that can help you.
You mentioned Comic-Con. Do you always go there? I mean, what are you going there for? Are you for the Marvel, the DC stuff?
I go for the people. I'm a collector of human beings, and I've always considered one of my greatest gifts spotting talent. I'm really good, and my next favorite thing after that is putting talent together. I have introduced people and seen projects just created and Kickstarters start and them become successful, and I love it. I don't do it for thanks. I don't get kickbacks or any kind of percentage. I love seeing creativity. I love entertainment in all of its forms. How I got started into Comic-Cons was after my one and only album. I went down to San Diego Comic-Con with some friends and saw that it was more than just comic books. It was entertainment in general. So I went down the next year to promote my album that I just finished, and gave away pens and buttons and whatnot, and just enjoyed the 2 summers there in a row so much that about a couple months after, I started the Down the Road Show podcast, because my friend wanted to start a podcast, and I'm like, well, my dad was in radio before I was born, and it's the only thing I ever thought about going to college for was radio broadcasting. So hell yeah, let's start a podcast. Started that in 2010, 10 years ago, Down the Road Show. We were putting little video clips on YouTube back when YouTube only allowed 15-minute video clips.
Yeah, I remember that time.
We were the first and only that I'm aware of video podcast format on YouTube back then that I'm aware of. Joe Rogan didn't exist. No offense.
Well, look at that. You're the first one before Joe Rogan.
No offense, Joe Rogan, but we created your genre. You're welcome. But then I went to my first Comic-Con with my crew, and they gave me a booth, and they gave me as many passes as I wanted, brought still photographers, brought videographers, and we did our thing. And I had so much fun that it was just like, well, I ain't going back to podcasting. I immediately jumped into video producing and I started moderating panels for celebrities and recording panels for other friends I was making in the industry that wanted their stuff promoted on my channel, and interviewing cosplayers and just regular people
So
and having
which
a blast.
celebrities did you talk to already?
I've talked to a lot.
Anyone that I
I
would know.
miss Stanley. I miss him immensely.
Damn, yeah. I wish I saw him. He was supposed to go here, but then
Nice man.
happened.
Nice
Yeah.
man. You know, I've 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 moderated. There was one weekend where I moderated about at least minimum 7 panels a day for 3 days in a row. So like I can't even tell you all the celebrities I moderated for in that
But I mean,
weekend
like, is it a
alone.
Marvel? Is it a CW Arrowverse or
All of it, yeah. Marvel, DC, CW, Dexter.
nice?
Yeah. You know, and being small press and just, I don't go through the normal channels that a lot of people
Yeah,
do.
yeah. It
And
seems so, man.
And being a very outgoing person, I have no problem. Look, everyone, there's nobody above me, and I don't consider myself above anyone else. So I'll talk to anyone, and I use everyone on a first name basis, like we're friends, like we're family.
I think
like we
everybody should
already know each
start
other.
doing that. Exactly. Everybody
Yeah,
should start doing that because at the end of the day, these celebrities just want to talk to
it's
people.
their job. They have
Exactly.
sports figures, celebrities, famous people. They're normal people like you with extraordinary talents and extraordinary jobs. They just have a really cool job and life that usually pays them a lot of money. However, just because you've been in a TV show once doesn't mean you're set for life. People misunderstand that about entertainment here in America. Like, there's your top of the list A's, and then there's everybody else in between. And then don't forget about all your boom operators, your sound operators, and everyone that actually makes the magic happen, that can barely pay their bills and can barely pay for whatever healthcare issues or fixing their car that they need. They're struggling to survive. Not everybody who works in the industry is doing well. And the same with the comic book industry. Everybody wants to be in the comic book industry, but it's been dying for a long time. DC just fired a ton of friends of mine and friends of friends, you know, because sales are down in not just in the print, but in the digital comic book world too. Whereas look at all the money Marvel's making in movies, you know, that's not trickling down to the original artists and writers. And the same thing with DC, you know, and I love it all. And that's how I got into it, is because I love entertainment. I've never been a huge comic book collector or reader. I just love entertainment, and nerds, especially nerds in this country, they don't understand that they're all different mediums. You can't have a comic book graphic novel that appears the exact same in TV or movie form. It doesn't work. It's never, ever worked, and it never, ever will work. And that's why we hire directors and producers and writers to envision it their way. And if you don't like what you're seeing, then go out there and make your own shit.
Man, I'd love to talk to you and ask you about that pop culture stuff. But before I do, is there any Stan Lee moment that you could share with us? Because man, he's someone that I always wanted to buy a merch or anything signed by him. But like I said, before he came to the Philippines for a Comic-Con style event, he passed away, and it never came into fruition. Man, is there anything you could share for those who missed him?
He did that all for the fans. He died earlier than he had to. He did it for the fans. He loved the fans more than anybody. And it was his team, his family, his corporation. They ran him into the ground by doing too many Comic-Cons. The last few Comic-Cons, one of which a friend of mine ran, like he was falling asleep while people were doing their little photo sessions. Like, how are you doing that to this old man, especially a few years after his wife died and all of his own health issues when he's that age? It was just a money-grabbing bullshit. But yeah, so some of my favorite moments were those private little moments where we're surrounded by hundreds or thousands of fans, and I'm there as small press in the middle of it with them, with security keeping a tight line, and I get to film him doing little autographs or doing little things and interacting with the fans. He loved the fans. That's why he went to so many Comic-Cons when he shouldn't have been, because he did it for the fans. It was amazing. And he was so nice to me every time we talked. So sweet. And like, back when I was moderating a lot of panels in my early days, like I'd run into him in the green room because he was so old. Part of his contract allowed an empty green room for him to take a midday nap so that he could get through a full 8 to 12 hour Comic-Con day as an old man. Like, so yeah, I would run into him napping there all the time while I was getting coffee, refilling my energy to go film another panel. And it was just like, oh, there's Stanley, don't wake him up. You don't want to be the guy who wakes up Stanley from his nap. So
I'm sure you don't want to be that person. But I mean, do you feel that
nice man.
Yeah, do you feel that the organizer should have been responsible for at least? I mean, Stanley probably, like you said, Stanley would never say no because he loves the fans. But do you think the organizer should have done something that would allow him to prioritize his health in a way?
Yes, but it was, the organizers are just trying to get someone who sells tickets. That's their job.
Yeah, that's why you don't want those big companies owning those cannabis stuff because they'd probably exploit it too, huh?
It should have been his agents, his publicists, all the people on his personal team that have been working with him for decades, who know exactly what's going on with him on a day-to-day basis, who should have been looking after him and protecting his health and well-being the most.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Now, I have to ask you, what are your thoughts with the current pop culture stuff going around? Because like it's a cool thing for someone like me who was so young reading all these comic books and seeing some of them happen in the big screen. But at the same time, like you said, there's no new stuff that I am aware of. There probably are some new comic books coming out, but it's not like the old times where if an issue comes out, everybody knows about it. Everybody's excited to buy it. Like, what are your thoughts regarding that?
Well, you're talking about a flooded market. There's just too much out there for consumers to consume, which can be a problem. But at the same time, I grew up in the decades where there wasn't. You guys didn't have all that. We didn't have this kind of entertainment option. Jaws 3D was the pinnacle of the height of 3D when I was a kid. 3D was not going to get better and cooler than that. Now 3D gives me motion sickness and vertigo because it's so damn good. And you look at CGI, how bad CGI was in the early 2000s compared to what we're doing with CGI today. I think, look, I'm 46 and I don't want to be that old man and get off my lawn. You young kids don't deserve all this entertainment. But for the love of God, quit overanalyzing and just enjoy some entertainment. You guys are living in the golden age of entertainment right now. It's coming from left and right. You got more online channels than I grew up with regular TV channels. Like, y'all are spoiled, and that's why you're just over analytic about everything. And I think that's why I'm lucky that I grew up before cell phones.
Yeah, me too.
Distracting me from everything, and that I can look at entertainment and dissect it and go, well, there's some plot holes here and there, and maybe I'd have done different things different, and that didn't make sense to me here and there. But was I entertained? And that's what I always come back to in entertainment. Did it entertain me? Because as entertainment, its first job is to entertain me. Secondary, all entertainment forms tell a story that relate specifically to society around the times they are created.
Yeah, I hear you, man. But also another thing that I'd like to ask is, you mentioned that some of your friends from DC got laid off. What do you think is the best way for artists or for fans to support artists like them? Do you think that they should do like their own version of a Patreon where a
lot of them have that? Yeah, Patreons are great. That's a great personal way to support people. I have Patreons out there, not a single person giving me money. So please go check out the Down the Road Show Patreon.
Check it out.
But that is an absolute great way. Another way is, you know what? You find an artist you like, buy their art, support your local small-time artists, buy a commission, follow them on their social media. You can buy original comic art. That is a great way to add to your collection, is getting original. So their original pencil drawing that's not even colored in, that stuff ends up worth a lot of money. And there's usually only one copy of that. They don't make prints of that. You get the original. Like, So there's lots of great ways to support artists, writers, and creators because the trickle down money from DC and Marvel isn't getting there. So once again, capitalistic greed. When can we get to a place on this planet where corporations and companies are treating their employees as human beings instead of just a means to an end?
Yeah, I hear you. Now, we are winding down because, like I said, I don't want to let you feel the pains for so long. But you mentioned that. Last question before I let you go. Like you said, you're a great. You could spot talent when you see it. It seems like you're a curator to me. Do you have an idea for what to do to all your friends who got laid off? Like, do you see a show or something visual that you yourself could produce on YouTube, or you have an idea for it?
Look, I've always wanted to start my own Comic-Con. I have lots of ideas, but unfortunately, even amongst my friends in the industry, I'm a small fish. They have bigger, better networks and connections than I do. I'm still a fat nobody in the industry. So there's as much. I'm always willing to help wherever I can, but not to cut off my own foot or to the point where my own product suffers for it. Because 5 years ago, I stopped promoting Down the Road Show. I stopped filming panels because I had a bunch of friends ask me to represent them, artists, writers, and actors, and book them at Comic-Cons and get them art gigs and different things like that. So I spent an entire summer going completely broke, promoting friends and different people that referred to me and not making a dime off of it. And you can't help other people if you can't help yourself. And that's part of self-care and something I had to learn the hard way as an empath who loves to help people on a spiritual, emotional, mental way, that, sometimes I have to shut down and shut people out in order to get myself right. And it's the same in business. If your business isn't doing okay, how can you help anyone else? Online, I appear very successful, but to my Republican mom, I'm a failure.
I don't think so. Maybe your mom will eventually see that you're doing something cool here. Now, before I let you go, I think this is the time for you to promote anything that we would talk about your documentary, like everything else that you want to talk about, like all your socials. I think this is the time for you to share it with the world.
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is both an audio and video podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I'm pointing at Down the Road Show right here. Down the Road Show is my original product. It's the easiest to find me that way on all social media platforms, except the YouTube. It wasn't available when I started, so that's youtube.com/DTR show. Real easy to find. Please go subscribe. I could use some more subscribers on that channel. My Chronicles of Comic-Con channel is doing just fine. I have one video with my friend Stuart Mazzio, who plays the Joker. He, that's at like 12 million views right now and constantly climbing. That video is the only reason I make any kind of money to survive. So, and that was one of those things where it was like I was doing Down the Road Show and interviewing all these people, and I kind of got bored. I got bored of interviewing celebrities, so I started making parody videos with cosplayers and some of the celebrities I already knew, and then that just became its own thing and became fun and kind of took off. It became bigger than Down the Road Show, so now I'm back to promoting Down the Road Show. So anyway, The Cost of Cannabis is a documentary series. There's 7 episodes I have planned so far. The first episode is called Marijuana Martyr. It's about my friend Stuart Mazzio and his experience in slitting his wrist in open court to defy the system in 2013. And we catch up with him and his family and see where they are now in 2021. That episode airs on April 20th at 4:20 Eastern Standard Time, because 420 for all the stoners. But of course, the series is going to be educational for people like my Republican Mormon mom, who looks down on me for smoking marijuana when she doesn't even realize she grew up drinking cocaine in her Coca-Cola as a child. So, hello. We're going to be exploring all that stuff. So please just, number one, go subscribe to Down the Road Show on YouTube. And I have a podcast I just restarted at the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic hit, and every celebrity on the planet started their own podcast. So I would definitely love some listens and some subscribers on my Spotify or wherever you prefer to listen to your podcast, but it's also in video form because I had to go back to the original, and I prefer video form because it's just great seeing you here, sir, and seeing your face.
Hey.
And like I said, I can spot talent, and I see talent in you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So I wish your podcast nothing but success.
Hey, thanks so much, Casey, man. It means so much to me for you to be on the show, and for everyone listening. This has been very eye-opening for all of us, especially in areas where the talk of cannabis being legalized or being researched, for that matter, hasn't even been discussed. And hopefully, like right now, I'm processing a million things that Casey has told me. I'm probably gonna think about it before I sleep tonight. And
find someone who believes something different than you and have an uncomfortable conversation. That's my homework. That's my assignment to everyone watching or listening to this. Find someone and have an uncomfortable conversation. It'll change you for life.
Well, there you go, guys. I think it's time to finally go and have that uncomfortable conversation. But before that, man, don't forget, subscribe to Casey's stuff. Check it out, his documentary, The Cost of Cannabis. It's gonna come out 4/20, best date ever to release a documentary about cannabis. Also, all the stuff about IDK What To Say. Thank you so much for joining us, Casey. I'm Paulo
Pleasure.
Gonzales. IDK What To Say.